But how do you do that, right? And so I'll throw it back to this the story I was telling, right? When you have people who are in look, Frederick, Maryland is not the biggest city in the country. It's moderately sized. It's about an hour or so outside of D.C. No one showed up to tell these people, do as you're told or else. It was just all of a sudden like an official announcement went out. Everyone heard about the official announcement. So they all put flyers in their doors and said, okay, that's it. We're just going to do it now because I heard it through the grapevine. Mm-hmm. And that's not even about recruiting. That's just when the state decrees it. Everyone just says, okay.
But what if all those people actually had careers and jobs and families they were working on right now? They wouldn't even have noticed.
Well, no, I mean, this is a business, right? Everyone's here working at their job. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they're told by someone else, oh, they did a mask mandate. So
sure.
You don't want to get in trouble. Better do as you're told. And they all say, okay.
But you just put the point. You don't want to get in trouble.
Yep.
Right? Once you make the second piece is no opportunities. So when I have limited opportunities and my only opportunity is just to sell water, I will do anything to sell water. Because if I lose that opportunity, I got nothing. So if I think my only chance is really this job that I have, I will do whatever it takes to keep this job. If that means I got to yell at you, I'm yelling at you. If I got to throw you out physically, I'll do it because I want that job. So I'm saying the environment is the issue. What I don't want to do is punish the player. What I want to do is change the game, right? People tend to react to their environments. And the more we have the right environment, the less people will act badly.
I feel like
so that's what I want. So I'm sorry, to answer your question. How do you handle a mob? Right? Remember, in a mob, the person who runs the mob is the guy or gal who yells loudest. That's who controls the mob. So you've got to be over there and you've got to be able to talk to that leader and get them to either acquiesce or look weak or stop or agree with you or in some way, shape, or form where the group goes, oh, you know what? Maybe I should be watching Netflix instead of being here.
I want to tell you a story real quick that proves your point. About whoever controls the mob, the person who yells the loudest is the person who controls the mob, and it's literal. Mm-hmm. It's absolute literal. So during Occupy Wall Street, there was this very funny moment where everybody shows up to defend the park. Rumors of a police raid were coming. Everyone shows up in the early hours of the morning, and there's a couple thousand people there at Zuccotti Park and Occupy. Some guy's standing up on this ledge because the park slopes downhill. So there's a part where you have like a 5-foot ledge, and he does the mic check, and then everyone yells, and he goes, should we maybe go march? And then everyone mutters and looks around. Nothing happens. Then some woman goes, mic check. And then they all yell, mic check. Goes, I say, we go march. And then everyone goes, wow. And they all just start following her. Yes. It was an amazing thing to watch. I'm like, the guy asked if you wanted to do it and no one knew. When the lady just screamed, everyone just started marching.
Yes.
Absolutely magical that people just... Hey, if you yelled it, I'll do it.
Yes, absolutely. The issue is there's a book called The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi.
Yes.
One of my favorite books.
Excellent book.
Book on sword fighting by the greatest swordsman in Japan, real person. It's actually mistranslated. It's supposed to be the Book of Five Scrolls, but they messed up in the ring you used to put the scroll in, so they messed up in translating it. So it's actually the Book of Five Scrolls. And in the book, he mentions the idea of fighting multiple enemies, right? And he talks about the idea of if you have a lot of enemies in front of you, don't be afraid. Drop the leader, the rest will run. That's his entire piece. Now, I take that not literal. I take that as control the leader. I use the Lincoln analogy. If I make my enemy my friend, haven't I destroyed my enemy? So I don't have to kill the leader. I have to make the leader my friend. I make the leader my friend, the mob goes away. The same thing. Or take out the leader, the rest disperse.
Your slave, like what they did with the Incans. They took
I'd rather
the
not
empire.
enslave people, though.
They took, I think it was the Spanish, took the emperor hostage.
That's correct.
And they basically kept them as like a house servant for a month or so, and they
Montezuma.
controlled the empire.
Correct.
It wasn't Montezuma, it was the Incan.
The Incan one. Oh,
the
yes.
Incan
Okay, yes.
emperor. And they controlled the Incan empire after that, and then they killed him quietly.
Yep.
But yeah, that's how you do it. You take
Exactly
the leader.
right.
That, in battle, if you cut down the leader, the troops don't know what to do. This is old battle, too. So modern
this
age
is new battle. This is why the Marine Corps always has rules in the Marine Corps. If you ever see the Marines, we have a blood stripe, right? We are the only service that has a red stripe in our dress uniform. That blood stripe comes from the Battle of Chapultepec. Is that right? I think that's right. Is that right? I'm not. One of the battles in the Mexican War. I think that was the right one, where the officers were killed and the non-commissioned officers took over and still captured the city anyway.
Wow.
And from that, only E4s and above get that red blood stripe. The Marine Corps teaches you that when the captain shot, the hill still must be taken. which is so when leaders get killed, Marines still step up and do the job. This is what leadership is about. Good leadership is about creating more leaders, which is why often cults of personality fail. Because once that person is gone, there's no more leaders there. It's all gone. If you create a movement, a real movement, you create more leaders around you. So one guy drops, the rest pop up, and the hill is still taken.
Right. It's not that we don't need a leader. It's that we need lots of them.
Yes, I always say the liberty movement does not need a savior. It needs hundreds of heroes.
It is
hundreds of heroes.
The Battle of Chapultepec in
I said it right.
1847.
Chapultepec. Yeah,
Chapultepec.
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that's where.
That was
That's
right.
cool.
Chapultepec?
I still remember my my Marine Corps history.
And it was an
I
E4
I've been
that-
a Marine in 30 years, so I still remember my history.
It was an E4 that picked up the.
No, it was a bunch of non-commissioned officers, E4 and above, who basically picked up the issue and kept going. If you ever watch, I had my daughter and I watch the movie Full Metal Jacket. Mm-hmm. If you ever watch, there's a part where they're ready to attack the city of Wei, and as they're moving into Wei City, there's a bunch of explosions. The captain drops. The second the captain drops, the staff sergeant gets up. Let's move, and the staff sergeant takes him, and he's still moving into the city anyway.
Band of Brothers too, man. When they drop behind enemy lines, the captain goes down, and the lieutenant's forced to take over.
All elite units have that. All elite units have, but mobs don't. Mobs are not elite, so mobs don't have that. Trained elite units have that esprit de corps. They have that way of thinking. Mobs don't. It was Napoleon who said, "If you want to get rid of a mob, give them the whiff of grape shot, right?
Wow.
Fire around, and the mob will disperse."
Yeah, my favorite movie to quote, of course, The Patriot with Mel Gibson. There's that great scene where he's talking with, I think it's Cornwallis, and he says, "Stop killing my officers."
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine what war would be like? People running about, and then he has, that's the point. But then I love he responds. He was like, "So long as your officers are killing women and children, I will order my men to fire on sight." Which is awesome. I love that movie. Mel Gibson was amazing in it. But that's the point. There was, don't kill the officers. Just kill the lowly people and then let the officers live, because we don't want disorganized warfare. It's an insane thing to think that there was a time where people were like, "We're going to war and I want you dead, but we'll be gentlemanly about it."
Because you would capture the enemy Duke, and then you'd sell them back for 10 times the money you would make with a peace deal or with a beheading, and then their son becomes the Duke and hates you. There's no point. You just
So you're saying our approach to Antifa is all wrong. We should be capturing their leaders
selling
and
them back to Antifa.
They wouldn't be that valuable.
I think that's what the law system has been doing. They've been incarcerating them and bailing them out, basically. Isn't that a similar thing? They're paying themselves to release the...
Actually.
the
they
criminals.
arrest them, and then the Antifa raises money through crowdfunding to pay to get them out of jail, keeping this industry rolling. Could you imagine if that's the real reason there's not as many prosecutions with Antifa and they get released a lot? It's because there's an industry around it. Wow. High-paid lawyers, politicians getting funding, donations, crowdfunding websites. They're all like, look, if we convict them, then we stop getting the money from this economy of activism.
And we have to pay to incarcerate them on top of it.
That's right. We
God.
lose money.
I wish that was
racket.
unbelievable, but it's not. I wish that was unbelievable, but it's totally not unbelievable.
But I mean, what would you do? I mean, that's a free market, right?
No, government's by default not a free market.
Yeah.
By default, once it's government, it's by default not a free market, right? So no, not at all.
How do you balance that out, libertarian style, with like the authority of government, having control of the authority of government and being libertarian about it? How do you?
That is one of the broadest questions I've ever had.
I'll be a little more specific. How do you feel about like public roads being owned by the government?
Yeah, as a general rule, that's not a real thing in America. Like, Americans don't want to hear that. So my idea has always been, instead, you raise money for infrastructure by leasing out naming rights from that infrastructure. So an example in New York City is a great example. Meaning, so for example, we have dozens of bridges in New York City. They get mentioned hundreds of times every day on the reports, the traffic reports. We see them on Google Maps. They're in TV shows all the time. Imagine instead of it being the George Washington Bridge, it was the Netflix Bridge or the Pepsi Bridge.
The Bud Light Bridge.
The Bud Light
There you
Bridge.
go.
Oh my gosh.
100%, yes.
Don't drink and drive.
They would easily pay us $100 million a year. How do I know that? Because I brought this up in 2018, and there were bankers talking to me about how long is the lease? What are we talking about? How long will it go? Because you have to have it for at least 12 years, at least 10-year lease, because culture has to also change, right? So just because I want to name it the Pepsi Bridge doesn't mean I still won't call it the George Washington Bridge. So culture has to change to get the Pepsi piece on there. Plus, they also control maintenance. But we still own the asset. We own the asset, a leasing naming rights to them. You front load the contract. So if they screw up on the maintenance, we remove the contract. We get our money up front. New contract. So now what happens, you raise money, you end the tolls. Tolls in New York, $15 to $18 for one bridge, one way.
Yep.
You get rid of those tolls, now the regular working poor and the middle class can drive across the bridge. Independent truckers aren't getting hammered because they pay per axle. So that now goes away. And you don't have to pay for the maintenance of the bridge. You take the cash, you pay for the MTA.
This is brilliant. Maybe we should auction the name of Freedomistan, so it'll be like Netflix.
Oh my gosh, you'd make
Podcasting.
at least $18 million for the first year.
Netflixia.
Netflix, yeah.
There we go, yes.
I don't know if any of these corporations would want to be associated with our Freedomistan.
No, they would, dude.
But so we're building the new facility. It's like 50 acres in the middle of West Virginia.
Nice.
So yeah, why don't we just do that? We just be like, hey, you want to name it? You got to pay.
That's
and
it.
It's only good for, we'll do a 5-year lease.
But that's what government should be doing, but it won't. Here's the reason why. Government is backward. In other words, government says we're doing something, so government should pay some crony, some friend that I have to do the work with taxpayer money. Should be the opposite. I'm giving you government land or government. You should pay me. Why am I why? Because, well, if you pay me, I can't reward my friends with jobs. And remember, government is always two things, a monopoly and a jobs program. It's always those two things. If you take away the jobs program, then take away the monopoly, government has very little power. So they want to make sure that they're always spending money to create jobs so you become loyal to the government.
Yep.
Right? So that's why they always create an office of this, an office of that, and they put $14 million towards it, $10 million towards it, because now my buddy and his son and daughter all get jobs now.
And once you get your population dependent on government-controlled healthcare, you never got to worry about losing power ever again.
Correct.
Do you think in like the age of fifth generational warfare, meme warfare and stuff, that naming roads and bridges, corporate names, is dangerous?
Why?
Just because it brainwashes people to think the corporations are in control?
They already think it. And then the other thing is, they already think it, number one. And in many cases, they are. I mean, Amazon is in heavy control already. But no matter what, the person who's actually in control is the person who can arrest you. That's the person who's actually in control, right? Whoever can arrest you is actually in control. So that's number one. But the second piece is, there won't just be one bridge. Amazon won't own all the bridges.
Well, they don't own any of them, right? They just have the naming rights?
The naming rights, they won't own the naming rights to all the bridges. One of them will be an Amazon bridge. One will be a Pepsi bridge. One will be a Netflix bridge. Look, if Amazon wants to get 2 bridges and drop $200 million a year, they can get 2 bridges. It's fine. But there'll be a bunch of bridges.
But this is actually a really good idea. Because check out this, right? When you're leaving New York, you got a couple different options for your bridges, right? Depending on where you're going. So when you're going north out of what's that, Washington Bridge?
George Washington Bridge.
Mm-hmm. What's another option outside of the George Washington Bridge in the same direction?
You can go to Tappan Zee Bridge. Well, it's actually called the Mario Cuomo Bridge.
Yeah.
But I still call it, because we remember something. We are an empire, so we always have to name our monuments about our royalty.
I would love to rename FDR.
Now hold on.
So yes.
So you've got the Cuomo Bridge and the Washington Bridge, right?
Yep.
Now imagine, because this is an amazing idea. Imagine New York leases them out, and then Coke buys one.
Yep.
And Pepsi buys the other.
Oh, that'd be
Love that.
awesome.
But hold on.
Analytics.
But hold on. Then one day you're driving and you hit a pothole on the Coke Bridge and you post on Twitter, these potholes on the Coke Bridge are trash. I'm taking Pepsi. Coke's going to be like, we got to fix this bridge.
Absolutely.
How much money to fix the potholes?
And they'll fix it fast, too.
They will.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
That's a great incentive. Yeah.
And
I like
cheaper.
that.
You could rename it
Yes.
the FDR. What is it, a freeway? The FDR?
Yeah, FDR Drive.
That would be nice to rename.
Absolutely. FDR Drive.
It's kind of scary to think, though, that you're going to be like, you're going to make a right onto Netflix.
Yes.
Once you get to the Pepsi Bridge,
Yes.
you need to exit onto the KFC highway.
Yes. But the
plants crave.
other option is horrible infrastructure being paid for by poor people.
Right.
The advantage of this right now is the left will always say, I want corporations to pay more. Me too. Let's just do it voluntarily. Well, they're going to voluntarily pay for your infrastructure. I want Netflix to pay for the MTA. I'll get them to do it. They'll happily do it. Companies like Google and such have a $10 billion marketing budget. That's just the marketing budget per year. $100 million, easy day. They don't care.
Do you think it would be okay to sell the name of New York City to
No.
Google and just call it Google?
No.
Just call it Google.
No, terrible idea.
But what's the difference?
Infrastructure is infrastructure. Once you do the city, that's monopoly. But
it's just a name.
But it's the city. It's one city. You've just made another monopoly. We have enough monopolies. I want to sell things where there's lots of, right? Lots of. And they can compete against each other. Lots of. They might want to buy 2 or 3 of them. Good. Put tons
But
of
not
money
all
in
of
it.
them. What if Google buys every available infrastructure, outbids everybody? And so it's like, once you exit at Google 1, you turn left on Google 3. Google 4 is when you...
It's a valid point. And if that becomes a problem, let's cross that bridge. Nice. Right, yes.
Lovely.
If
Pun intended.
I hope that becomes a problem. I hope one company wants to spend $3 billion on and pay for New York City's infrastructure. Let that be a problem.
It's a brilliant
I'll deal with
idea.
that
I mean,
issue.
truth be told, like when it came to setting up Freedomistan, we just called it that. I think Luke came up with the name. It's like, like Afghanistan or whatever. Stan meaning city. And so he was like, call it Freedomistan or something. Freedomistan. I said Freedomistan. We could raise money to expand our operation by offering someone up the chance to buy the naming rights for a certain amount of time. And then whenever we're talking about it, we would call it like, Joe's Plumbing, headquarters or whatever.
100%. Why not? Look, I was talking about the MTA, right? The MTA is an old system, right? The disadvantage of New York City is that its system's very old. The subway's over 100 years old. It takes forever to fix anything, to repair anything. So I want a brand new system. It's too expensive and it's a garbage system. How do you fix it? Okay. At night, for those of you who don't know, an MTA at night, literally every other train, it's down every other train. So make every other train a freight train. Allow freight to come into the city. Well, the first response I get is, well, you can't have freight come into the city. The tracks aren't ready for that. I guess that means that FedEx and Home Depot and Amazon will have to build all new tracks, won't they? And what we'll do is every hub they create, they name their own hubs. So it's the Home Depot hub, it's the so-and-so hub. It's not going to be the Moynihan station, again, named after our elites. It'll be the Home Depot station. It'll be the so-and-so station. They'll get all the name rights. They'll rebuild the entire system. We'll get more freight going to the city, less trucks on city roads at night. They're happy, we're happy, and we get a brand new system, and we can lower the cost to about $1 a ride.
Have you considered running for some kind of political office?
I have. And here's the worst part. That plan's been on my website for 4 years.
Wow.
No one's taken it.
I mean, we talk
it's a
about
great idea,
one of the nightmares of New York is shipping.
Yep.
It's so difficult in New York City, particularly.
Yes.
Getting goods into a city so dense is insane. The roads are shot.
Correct.
The parking is ridiculous. They've banned, like, you can't, non-commercial vehicles can't even park in Manhattan because it's just too congested.
Correct.
So I like
now
your plan.
This happens now. Literally, if you want to be eco-friendly, the city is in a place where you have enough hubs. You could literally have walkers, people who are walking goods, people who are backpacking. You could use bikes whatever you want.
Like an Uber type of thing.
You could make Uber. Whatever is the right thing. The point is, as a governor, I don't have to make that decision. I change the environment. And then you got better players.
Larry, solving problems for regular working people, it doesn't work for the elites because the problems keep them in power.
But as long as I give them something, which if you notice, I'm always giving the elite something.
And it will create new problems for them to worry about.
Correct. I give the elites something, because if you try to just fight the elites straight up, one-on-one, you lose. So I've got to
don't
bring them
charge a
aboard.
machine gun nest.
Correct. So I bring them aboard. I bring them aboard and helping me out. Right? Here's what I'm sure of. Amazon wants to advertise. So does Google and everyone else. And they don't know how. They're throwing this stuff all over the place. They're figuring out how this thing works. I'm giving you away. And I'll talk about it on top of it. As governor, I'll talk about it.
Dude, if Fifth
Not a bad
Avenue
deal.
was Amazon Ave, and then you had like
I'm not
Bed
sure
Bath and Beyond Ave
I don't
or
want to
whatever.
change the streets.
I'd
because
be down.
The streets are in Manhattan are all numbered.
I guess it helps you
and it's
navigate.
easy to navigate. So I don't want to change streets. Right? That's going to wind up. All my policies are always set up to help the working poor and the middle class.
But this is interesting.
And that will hurt the working poor and middle class. So I'm not okay with that.
So if we're talking about bringing freight into the city on the tracks, on an existing massive, what you said, subway,
rebuilt subway trucks.
That's going to save these companies insane amounts of money.
Yes.
So they have a massive profit incentive for investing in this if they get access to it.
Yes. And it's just their marketing budget anyway. They're not paying any extra money.
No, I mean like.
So I'm not causing them to pay any extra money out of their budget, but they're putting more money into infrastructure.
But I'm not talking about the naming rights. I'm talking about necessarily. I'm also talking about if you allow the trains to come in and set up hubs.
Right.
They're going to say it's going to cost us X per year.
Yep.
If we invest $100 million, it'll be X minus Y.
Right.
We're going to save money over 10 years. We're going to make more, put more money in our pockets.
100%. They'll save money after the first year.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
and they'll build it faster.
Why? Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.